Hey everybody, welcome back to another 7 Habits of Highly Effective People video and our lessons that we're going through for a whole year in 2020 on the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People with me, Jason Duncan, and Results Through Integrity. I want to thank you for following me, and before we get into today's tip, I want to ask you, if you haven't done so, and if you're watching this on YouTube, please click the subscribe button below and make sure you hit the bell icon so that you're notified of new content every time I post something. Right as I was beginning to post this video, a drop-down notification on my phone showed up in one of the YouTube channels that I follow, and it said the new video, the title, and a little blurb about it, and it said, you want to play, watch later, or dismiss? And I hit watch later because I love the guy's content and I wanted to follow it. So make sure you do the same thing. I especially appreciate it if you follow me and subscribe to my YouTube channel. So on with today's tip. We're doing these cards through the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People all through the year in 2020 that come from this little card deck called the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's got a card for every week of the year, a little activity. I highly recommend that you'll go get it. There's the information for those of you who can see it. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. There's the ISBN number. I would highly recommend you get it. My wife bought this for me for Christmas last year, and it has been really good for me to take this information seriously and then in turn share it with you in these videos. So this week we're on week 21, and the tip is to plan your week. So let's look at the front of the card and let's see what the Covey group tells us to do. The first thing it says is to find a quiet place to plan for 20 to 30 minutes. It goes on to say connect with your mission, your roles, and your goals. Third, it says to choose 1 or 2 big rocks for each role and schedule them. I'll talk about rocks in just a moment. Then it says, number 4, organize the rest of your tasks, appointments, and activities around your big rocks. Now, for those of you that don't know what the big rocks is, I want to give you a little story. So there was a person who was trying to teach a lesson to his students, and he gave them this big jar, large jar. And on the table in front of the jar were big rocks, pebbles, sand, and water. And he told the students, he said, I want you to fill the jar, but every item you see on the table has to go in the jar. And I've already tested, they will all fit if you do it correctly. And the students worked for a long time before they figured out, here's what has to happen. You have to put the big rocks in first, then the pebbles, then the sand, and finally the water. If you do it out of order, you'll never get everything in there. And as you know from physics, if you put the sand in first and fills it up, then you put rocks on top of it and pebbles, you've got lots of gaps. So the big rocks first, then the pebbles fill in the gaps, the sand fills in the rest of the gaps, and the water finally fills everything out. So what Stephen Covey is telling us to do here when we're planning our week, if we're going to be a highly effective person, you have got to deal with your big rocks first. And so what they're telling you to do, if you're going to be a professional salesperson, an entrepreneur, a business owner, or a highly skilled executive, you've got to plan your week. And what they're telling you to do on this card, and I highly recommend, is you take 20 to 30 minutes alone at the beginning or right before your week begins and make sure that you plan that out. Write those activities down. Pick the big rocks, so to speak, and focus on those first. For those of you that wonder how I do it, of course, I'm fully integrated with the Google Calendar method, and I use Google on my phone, but I also use this Moleskine planner. This Moleskine, and I've got a friend who thinks it's called Moleskine, and I'm not sure who's right, but I call it Moleskine. But in the planner, it's got on this side over here, it's got every day of the particular week, and then over here is a place for notes. And what I do on the week, at the top, I put in my to-dos, all the big things I've got to do, and then each day of the week, I write down what my planned, scheduled activities are for that week. I do that at the beginning of every single week, and I make sure to focus on the big rocks first. Like if I've got to post a video, that's a big rock. I've got to make sure that I've got the contents prepared, that I've got the video ready to go, I've got all the things ready before I get into the little stuff like filing paperwork or returning the telephone call. Those might be parts of pebbles or sand or even water. I need to get everything done in my week, but I got to plan it in order to get it done right. Now, if you flip the card over to the back, it says to ask yourself, What are the one or two most important things I can do in each role this week? And what it's talking about in our roles is you've got many roles. If you're married, you've got the role of a spouse. If you're a parent, you've got the role as a parent. If you're the business owner, you've got the role of business owner. If you're a salesperson, an employee, whatever those roles are, you need to think about what that role is and think about what one or two most important things you can do in each of those roles for the week. It goes on to say, effective people plan every week, taking time alone before the week begins. Your goals, roles, and your quadrant 2 activities are your big rocks. Schedule them first, and the gravel of less important tasks will fit around them. Now, we've been talking about the last 2 weeks in these video series about the time matrix, and you can see the 4 quadrants here. Effective people spend most of their time in Q2, where the important tasks are. The quote from Stephen Covey this week says, "If you were to ask me what single practice would do more than any other to balance your life and increase your productivity, it would be this: plan your week before the week begins." Thank you for following me on YouTube or Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever you're watching this video. And I want to ask you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel like I did at the beginning. And especially this week, if you're on LinkedIn, would you do me a favor? Would you find me on LinkedIn? Here's the link to where I am. You can find me and then send me a message with a connection request. Tell me that you watched this video and I will connect with you. And if there's anybody in my network that I can connect you with to help you get where you want to go, I want to be the guy to do that. Thank you for following, and I'll see you next week.